Morning, brothers and sisters in Christ. Pray that everyone had a good night's sleep last night. Yeah, just brings me to what I'm wanting to say now. I really just want to share my testimony, and hopefully it will encourage everyone, uplift you. This morning, when I was actually walking around the garden and just looking at the plants and the flowers and hearing the birds sing and all that, it's just so amazing. And it reminded me of Psalms 118 verse 24, which says, "This is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it." And I just feel that that is really something. It's like a doing word. I know King David had made a couple of mistakes in his life, and there were consequences to those things. And so that's why when he woke up, it was like a conscious thing that, Lord, you have made this day, and that's why I am going to rejoice and I am going to be glad in it. And I think just for my life story, we can start a couple of years ago when I actually decided to join the police. Those days we had a choice as whether we want to obviously go to the army, which we had to do, or you had a choice, you could do your national service through the police. My brother-in-law was a couple of years older than me, and he said, "No, look, come join the police. It's so much better, you get paid better." And being a young man, I think I thought as well, who hasn't played cops and robbers when we were younger? Yeah, so from there I actually ended up joining the police, went to Pretoria. A couple of years later, I was on duty. We had been executing some duties, and we were coming back from that, and I was driving down Jasmine Road and coming up, and as we drove up, myself and a partner, it was just like a flash of, I don't know, white lightning almost, and we were just T-boned from the side. And yeah, from this we ended up in someone else's yard, and it was like immediate shock, and we don't know what's going on and where we are and what happened. And then eventually you start looking around, you've seen, okay, there's a car over there, that's probably what hit us, and this is why we're like this. And my partner just started, he was obviously hurt and in pain, and he started screaming and shouting and swearing. And what had happened is, I was busy driving, so she drove into my side of the car. She squashed the car a bit, my legs were squashed in. At that stage my arm was sort of half out, driving like this, trying to look good. Anyway, so there was just blood all over my arm, and then a peace that surpasses all understanding came across me, and I just started praying and really just, leaving everything at God's, and just really praying and just saying, Lord, please help me. I'm in a situation that estranged to you. I don't know what's happening, and you need to give me the strength to get through this. And ambulances come and fire department come, and ended up cutting me out through the back because I was so squashed in. And went to hospital. That same afternoon I was released, and my partner died between 2 and 3 weeks later from injuries, internal injuries. And I mean, there's no other way of saying it, but God had his hand over me, his protection over me. Some of our courses that we did, we stayed in places, and it was really exciting. Sometimes as young men we did stupid things. We actually a couple of times tried throwing M26s into the dam to see if we could catch any fish. Those were just some of the funny things. But anyway, so I think those are the kind of things that just kept me going, the sort of excitement. And I'm mentioning this just to sort of reiterate that I think at times I knew I had a relationship with God, but I think at times when you did certain training, you used to think, no, well, it must be your training that pulled you through. You're much better trained than the people that you're going after. Early 2000, we actually went on a trip, detached duties as it is called, where you would stay in a certain area, and this time we were only going for a week, and our whole objective in that detachment was, we're working with stock theft unit. You'd get there, and we would obviously have accommodation where you would stay, and then from there we would go into, we were working in the whole Berg area, Loscorp, Escort, around that side, and there were big problems with stock theft. And what would happen is, in the morning you'd get up, you'd go with the pilots. I'm sure guys that are in the army would know what we talk about when we say sticks. They would take groups of 3 or 4 people out, would be dropped all over up in the mountains. Then from there we would help herd with the complainants, the cattle, all the way down to the bottom. We'd make a makeshift kraal, and once we had finished in that area, all the complainants that had cattle stolen would obviously line up, and the cattle would be sent through, and they would identify their own cattle, and that's how it was going, day in and day out. You can imagine it was very picturesque. We were flying all over. We get to do that for free. How amazing was that? I think it was on about the 4th day, after we had actually finished early that day, around 11:30, 12. Then we spoke to the pilots and said, look, we know certain areas are full up with drugs, mainly dacha, and then firearms. And we told the pilots, look, let's go to some areas that are inaccessible by vehicles, and let's see what we can find, you know. And so anyway, the first groups went out. Later on, we were like the 3rd stick to leave, and as we were flying along, we saw, of all things, this lady come running out of her house with a massive bag on her back. And anyway, she sort of cut through past her house, and then there was a little what do you call it, a milly little plantation at the bottom of the house, and she was busy running through there. At this stage, we had, obviously the pilot had seen it, and he ended up banking and coming around to land, you know. And it just seems after the banking and as we came down to land, the chopper just didn't slow down, and yeah, from there we just smacked down. From there, the back of the helicopter lifted up, and the propellers hit the ground, and it just flew all over, and we had it actually landed sort of half upside down in a little small stream. You would understand, you're very disorientated, you don't know what's happened, you know you've been in an accident. Yeah, and as it goes, we think of movies, you know. At that stage, there's just the whole motor had been revving like you won't believe, and there was chopper fuel now coming through and running along with the river, so you could smell that, and automatically I was thinking, oh well, it's gonna blow, you know. All the good Rambo movies, they blow. I managed to find a little, well, not a little, quite a big hole in the top of the helicopter itself, which I crawled out of, and from there all of us ended up getting out, and yeah, lay there on the ground, and yeah, just pondering on what had happened, and how yeah, we had actually survived, and everyone's still checking themselves, you know, to see who has got injuries. And at that time, I felt, there was a lot of pain in my back, and anyway, from there, it seemed to get a little bit worse before it got better. And next minute, one of the guys was saying, no, the community people had started gathering around, and they were saying we should have actually died in this helicopter accident, and they feel that they should, you know, kill us. I'm not too sure why, but anyway, so in the end of the day, we ended up chasing people away. Yeah, from there, I think it was around 30-40 minutes later, there was actually a helicopter that landed. They took people into the berg, you know, to see the picturesque, the beauty of the berg. They came to see what was going on. From there they left. I'm sure it was within an hour, one of our own helicopters from Durban came through and had landed there. And then we were just waiting for the 911 rescue helicopter that ended up coming. From there, the doctors came, because I think it's a doctor and a nurse that is in the helicopter, and obviously they put all the braces on and set you up so that, you know, for fear that they're going to damage you even further if you've got any back injuries. I was given some morphine. Before we left, I actually, I said to the pilot, Dad, has he seen the other helicopter? And he did say, yeah, no, he has. So I said, no, look, whatever you do, I don't want to look like that again. And from there, yeah, that was it. We flew back to Maritzburg. Medi City, and then from there I was in what would you call it, ICU for a couple of days, and I just had compression fractures, and I think I was off sick for about 40 days or so, 35 days, and then thereafter I sat at home. Basically before I ended up going back to work, I got hit by a lot of fear. And anyway, after going to doctors, they said this was PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that became the real battle in my life. For the next maybe 2 years, I really struggled with it. I had so much fear. I know now I laugh about it, and I think can you really be serious? But no matter what I did, where I went, I would always make sure that in my mind I would think, no, as long as I'm near a hospital, as long as I'm so if anything happens, if I suddenly have a heart attack, I'll be safe, in my mind. At night I would lie there and I would cry, and I had luckily a strong family in Christ, and I had my wife and other family members would pray for me continuously, and it's only because of that that I actually got through this. But anyway, it was a struggle, and it wasn't just a quick fix like this. I had to go through something. This brings me to where we are now at the moment. I think it's been 19 or 20 days that we've had this lockdown, and for a lot of people, fear is gripping them, and they're unable to do anything because of the fear. It sort of grips them, and they just can't see further than that. And I know there is businesses, private businesses, there's people that are maybe not feeling well, and maybe have got the COVID, and it doesn't matter how much you worry or you get engrossed into that worry and that fear. It doesn't change anything, and that's why the only solution is to lay everything at God's feet. I know Philippians 4 verse 6 says we must be anxious about nothing, but in everything through prayer, supplication and thanksgiving make up a request be known to you, Lord. And that's what we must do. I know at times it's hard, and I can remember even while I had all those problems, whether it be not sleeping, whether it be anxiety, whether it be worrying, nothing would work but to know that my strength lies in Christ, and that He is the only one that can pull me through this. And hopefully this is encouraging. Hopefully people can see, even though they're going through something, it's not they left there, they are going through it, and God knows all things, and it doesn't matter how we try to rationalize it, it's not going to help. He will be the one that is working all things out for the good for us, and that's what we must realize.